Most drivers wear their engine down years before any warning light ever comes on, through habits so small they never even notice them. Nobody tells them the damage isn't happening at highway speed, it's happening in the first 60 seconds after starting the car. So what happens when someone who's kept engines running well past what most mechanics expect finally lays out exactly which habits matter and which ones are just old myths? My name is Lu Feng. I've spent years driving and maintaining cars the way I was taught growing up. Patient habits that never felt dramatic but added up over hundreds of thousands of miles. I want to tell you about my first car first, because it's the reason I started paying attention to any of this. I drove that car the way most people do, gunning it the second it started, running it hard on short trips around town, never thinking twice. By 70,000 miles, it was already burning oil and running rough. My next car, driven with the habits I'm about to show you, passed 200,000 miles still running the way it did the day I bought it. That's not a lucky car problem. That's a habits problem. Almost none of the wear that kills an engine early happens in one dramatic moment. It happens in thousands of small, ordinary moments: a cold start pushed too hard, a short trip that never lets the engine warm up properly, a red light launch that stresses parts that were never built to be stressed that way. None of it feels like damage in the moment, so almost nobody changes it, and the bill shows up years later looking like bad luck instead of what it actually was. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Here's the truth that should reframe how you think about your own car. A large share of the avoidable wear that shortens an engine's life happens in the first 60 seconds after you start it, and in the handful of seconds right before and after hard driving. That's it. That's the window that matters most, and almost nobody treats it like it matters at all. So let's go through the 5 habits, in the order they actually protect the engine. The first habit is warming up the right way, and this is where a lot of people are still following advice that's outdated. You do not need to sit in the driveway idling for 5 minutes before you drive off. That habit comes from older carbureted engines and just wastes fuel on anything built in the last few decades. What actually protects a modern engine is starting it, waiting about 20 to 30 seconds for oil pressure to settle, and then driving off gently, keeping your revs low and your acceleration soft for the first 5 minutes or so, until the temperature gauge starts to move off cold. The trick is that idling in the driveway warms the engine, but does nothing for your transmission, tires, or suspension, while driving off gently warms the whole car evenly, which is what actually matters. The second habit is chaining your short trips together instead of running them separately. A cold engine on a short 2 or 3 mile trip often never reaches full operating temperature before you shut it off again, and that matters more than people realize, because a cold engine running rich produces extra moisture and unburned fuel that can work its way into the oil, and over hundreds of short trips that builds into sludge and accelerated wear. The trick is simple. If you've got 3 or 4 short errands to run, do them back-to-back in one trip instead of driving home and restarting cold each time, because one 20-minute trip that lets the engine fully warm up is genuinely easier on it than 4 separate 5-minute cold starts. The third habit is smooth acceleration and braking, and I mean genuinely smooth, not dramatic. Hard acceleration from a stop puts real stress on an engine and transmission that are still working at lower, less efficient RPM ranges. And hard, late braking does the same to your brakes and, over time, your suspension mounts. The trick is treating the pedal like there's a full cup of coffee sitting on your dashboard that you don't want to spill, easing into acceleration and easing off the throttle well before you actually need to slow down, rather than flooring it and stabbing the brakes. Drivers who do this consistently for years often see meaningfully better fuel economy on top of the reduced wear, so it isn't a pure trade-off, it actually saves you money twice. The fourth habit matters specifically if your car has a turbocharged engine, and it's the one almost nobody's ever told about. After hard driving, highway speeds, a long uphill pull, anything that's worked the engine hard, give it a short moment, 30 seconds or so, idling or at low load before you shut it off completely, rather than pulling into the driveway and killing the engine the second you park. The trick is that a turbo spins at extremely high speed under load and stays hot right after you stop, and shutting the engine off instantly cuts oil circulation to those hot bearings, letting the oil sitting there cook and break down faster than it should. A short cool-down window before shutoff protects that oil and the turbo bearings riding on it. The fifth habit is the least glamorous and the most important. Follow the maintenance calendar in your owner's manual, on the actual schedule, not just when a warning light finally comes on. Oil changes at the interval your manufacturer specifies, timing belt or chain service on schedule, coolant flushes when they're due. The trick here is that warning lights are built to catch you after something's already gone wrong, not before. So a driver who waits for the light is always maintaining the car reactively instead of protecting it proactively. Sticking to the calendar, even when everything currently feels fine, is what actually keeps small, cheap problems from becoming big, expensive ones. Those are the 5. Warm up by driving gently for the first few minutes, not by idling in the driveway. Chain your short trips together so the engine actually reaches full temperature regularly. Accelerate and brake smoothly instead of aggressively. Give a turbocharged engine 30 seconds to settle before shut-off after hard driving. And follow the maintenance calendar on schedule instead of waiting for a warning light. Here's the bigger picture, and it's what I want you to actually take with you. None of these 5 habits cost a single extra dollar. They're not about spending more on your car, they're about patience in moments that don't feel like they matter. The first minute after starting the engine, the last 30 seconds before you shut it off, the choice to ease into the gas instead of flooring it. The drivers I've known with engines that genuinely outlast everyone else's expectations were never the ones who spent the most money on their cars. They were the patient ones, every single drive, for years. So here's what I want you to do tomorrow morning, the very next time you start your car. Don't sit and idle, and don't floor it either. Just drive off gently, keep it easy for the first 5 minutes, and pay attention to how different that feels from your normal habit. That one small change, repeated every single day, is where all of this actually starts. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 habits you're already doing without realizing it, and which one surprised you most. I read every single one. Next time I'm going to show you the one dashboard warning light drivers tend to ignore the longest, the one that's usually the cheapest to fix early and the most expensive to ignore.